Get off my bus. People like you don't pay proper fares and always cause problems for real passengers who actually belong on public transportation. The aggressive removal commands exploded through the city bus as driver Derek Rodriguez blocked the black man from boarding. He slammed the bus doors with transit authority superiority, completely unaware he was refusing service to Marcus Transit, the transit agency chief whose $89.4 million municipal authority controlled every bus route, every driver's employment, and could terminate his career with a single administrative order. Let me take you back to 7:45 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday morning in downtown Portland, where assumptions about who belongs on public transportation would cost someone everything. Marcus Transit had risen through the ranks of public transportation management over 22 years, starting as a bus driver himself before earning degrees in urban planning and public administration. At 45, he was the chief executive officer of the Portland Metro Transit Agency, overseeing an $89.4 million annual budget, 847 buses, 2,200 employees, and transportation services for over 650,000 daily riders across the metropolitan area. More than the numbers, Marcus believed deeply in public transportation as a great equalizer, a system that should serve everyone regardless of income, race, or social status. Under his leadership, Portland Metro Transit had expanded routes to underserved communities, improved accessibility for disabled passengers, and implemented comprehensive diversity and inclusion training for all staff. This morning's incident wasn't planned. Marcus typically drove his personal vehicle to work, but his car was in the shop for repairs. He decided to take public transit, his own transit agency, to get to an important budget meeting with the city council. It would give him a chance to experience the service from a passenger's perspective, something he tried to do regularly but had been too busy for lately. He dressed professionally for the council meeting, a charcoal gray suit, white dress shirt, and conservative tie. To anyone watching, he looked like thousands of other professionals who rode Metro Transit to work every morning. He approached the Route 15 bus stop on Morrison Street at 7:43 a.m., 2 minutes before the scheduled arrival. The digital display showed the bus was on time. He checked his phone for emails while waiting, reviewing the presentation he'd give to the council about expanding weekend service to low-income neighborhoods. The blue and white Metro Transit bus pulled up to the stop with a hiss of air brakes. Marcus folded his umbrella and reached for his transit employee ID, which doubled as an unlimited-use pass. The front door opened, and he stepped forward to board. "Hold on there," came the voice from the driver's seat. Derek Rodriguez, 38, looked Marcus up and down with immediate suspicion. His name badge identified him as having 12 years of service, though Marcus didn't recognize him personally among the agency's 1,200-plus drivers. "Good morning," Marcus said pleasantly, holding up his employee ID card. "Round 15 to downtown, right?" Derek squinted at the card without really examining it. "That doesn't look right. You got a regular fare?" Marcus was puzzled. His employee ID was identical to those carried by every Metro Transit worker, with his photo, name, and unlimited access clearly printed. "This is my employee pass. I work for Metro Transit." Derek's expression hardened. "Sure you do. Everyone's got a story. You got $2.50 for the fare or not?" "Sir, this is a valid Metro Transit employee ID. I don't need to pay a separate fare." Marcus held the card closer so Derek could examine it properly. "I don't have time for games," Derek snapped. "People like you always try to ride free with fake IDs or expired cards. Either pay the fare or get off my bus." The phrase, "people like you," hit Marcus with uncomfortable familiarity. He'd heard variations of it throughout his career, always with the same underlying assumption about his credibility and belonging. "Could you please just look at the ID? It's clearly valid." Derek glanced at it dismissively. "Looks fake to me. And even if it's real, how do I know you didn't find it or steal it? You don't look like the type who works for the transit agency." Behind Marcus, other passengers were beginning to grow impatient. A white woman in business attire tapped her foot impatiently. An elderly man checked his watch. Students with backpacks shuffled restlessly. "What's the problem?" the businesswoman asked. Derek addressed her directly, ignoring Marcus. "Sorry for the delay. This gentleman is trying to board without proper fare." "I have proper fare," Marcus said firmly. "I have a Metro Transit employee ID that provides unlimited access to all routes." Derek turned back to him with visible irritation. "Look, I've been driving for Metro for 12 years. I know what employee IDs look like, and I know what employees look like. You're neither." The racist implication was unmistakable, but Marcus remained calm. "What exactly do Metro Transit employees look like?" Derek realized he'd walked into dangerous territory, but doubled down. "They look professional. They understand the system. They don't try to argue with drivers or hold up service for paying customers." "I am a paying customer. I pay through my employment with the agency." "Right," sarcastically. "What's your job title then? Let me guess, you're probably the CEO." He laughed at his own joke, turning to the other passengers as if they were all in on it. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably. The racist mockery was becoming obvious to everyone on the bus. "As a matter of fact," Marcus said quietly, "I am the CEO. Marcus Transit, Chief Executive Officer of Portland Metro Transit Agency." Derek's laughter became more pronounced. "Oh, this is perfect. The CEO is standing at my bus stop in the rain? Sir, the actual CEO drives a Mercedes and works in a glass office downtown. He doesn't ride buses with regular people." Marcus pulled out his business card and handed it to Derek. "This has my contact information and office address. You can verify my identity." Derek glanced at the card without reading it. "Anyone can print fake business cards. I've seen it all, friend. People pretend to be lawyers, doctors, business owners, anything to get a free ride." He handed the card back dismissively. "Here's what's going to happen. You pay $250 like everyone else, or you get off my bus. I've got a schedule to keep and paying customers who actually belong on public transportation." "I belong on public transportation. I've dedicated my career to making sure everyone belongs on public transportation." Derek's patience was completely gone. "Get off my bus! People like you don't pay proper fares and always cause problems for real passengers who actually belong on public transportation." He pointed aggressively toward the door. "I don't have time for scammers and troublemakers. Find another way to get around because you're not riding my route." The passengers watched in stunned silence as Derek's discrimination became undeniable. A young black woman near the back of the bus pulled out her phone and began recording. An elderly white man shook his head in disgust. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice still controlled but firm, "I need you to examine my credentials properly and allow me to board. I have legitimate authority to ride this bus." Derek stood up from his driver's seat, using his physical presence to intimidate. "You have zero authority on my bus. I'm calling transit security to have you removed for disrupting service and harassment." He reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is bus 847 on Route 15. I need security at the Morrison Street stop for passenger removal. Individual refusing to pay fare and becoming aggressive." Marcus realized the situation required intervention beyond Derek's authority. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. "Sarah, this is Marcus. I need you to patch me through to Operations Control immediately." Sarah Chen responded, "Marcus, are you okay? You sound stressed." "I'm fine, but I need to speak with Operations. There's a situation involving bus 847 on Route 15. Connecting you now." Marcus put the phone on speaker as it rang. Derek watched suspiciously, probably thinking this was an elaborate performance. "Operations Control, this is Supervisor Johnson." "Tom, this is Marcus Transit.
I'm currently at the Morrison Street bus stop being denied service by the driver of bus 847. He's refused to examine my credentials, made discriminatory assumptions about my appearance, and is currently requesting security to remove me from the bus stop." There was a moment of stunned silence. "Mr. Transit, sir, what bus did you say?" "Bus 847, Route 15, Morrison Street. Driver Derek Rodriguez." Derek's face had begun to change as he heard his supervisor's voice coming through the phone speaker. "Sir, I'm pulling up the GPS location now. Bus 847. Yes, I see it. Is everything all right?" "No, Tom. The driver has refused to examine my credentials, made discriminatory assumptions about my appearance, and is currently requesting security to remove me from the bus stop." Derek's radio crackled to life. "Bus 847, this is Operations Control. Please respond immediately." Derek looked between his radio and Marcus's phone with growing unease. "This is Bus 847. Rodriguez, you are to allow the passenger to board immediately and continue your route. Do you copy?" "Dispatch, this individual is trying to board without fare, and—" "Rodriguez." The voice from operations was sharp now. "The passenger you are speaking with is Marcus Transit, CEO of Metro Transit Agency. You are to provide full service immediately. Acknowledge." Derek's face went white as the reality crashed over him. He looked at Marcus with new understanding. Then at the employee ID he'd dismissed, then at the business card he'd refused to read. "Mr. Transit, I had no idea who you were." "Exactly. You had no idea who I was, so you decided I didn't belong on your bus. You made assumptions based on my appearance and treated me like a criminal." The other passengers had heard everything through Marcus's speakerphone. The young black woman recording had captured the entire exchange. The elderly white man was shaking his head at Derek's obvious panic. "Sir, I was just following procedures for fare verification." "No," Marcus said firmly. "You were profiling passengers. You dismissed valid credentials without examination. You used discriminatory language, and you escalated a simple boarding process into a public confrontation." Marcus's phone rang again. "Marcus, this is Tom. I've got transit police en route, but not for passenger removal, for incident documentation. We need a full report." "Copy that. Have them meet us at the downtown transit center." Derek finally examined Marcus's ID card properly, seeing the clear photo, official agency seal, and unlimited access designation he'd ignored. The business card showed the Metro Transit logo and Marcus's official title. "Mr. Transit, I sincerely apologize. I made a mistake." "You made a choice," Marcus corrected. 12 years driving for this agency, and you chose to discriminate against a passenger based on appearance rather than credentials."
Marcus boarded the bus, and Derek completed the route in uncomfortable silence. Every passenger seemed to be watching him, many having recorded or witnessed his discriminatory behavior. When they reached the downtown transit center, transit police and operations supervisors were waiting. Marcus spent an hour giving a detailed statement about the incident. Derek was suspended immediately pending a full investigation. The passenger who had recorded the exchange provided video evidence that clearly showed Derek's refusal to examine credentials and his discriminatory language. But Marcus's concerns went beyond one driver. If Derek felt comfortable discriminating so openly, it suggested systemic problems in hiring, training, or supervision that needed addressing. Over the following week, Marcus initiated a comprehensive review of driver training programs, passenger complaint procedures, and anti-discrimination policies. He also implemented random ghost rides where management would travel incognito to assess service quality. Derek Rodriguez was terminated after the investigation confirmed multiple policy violations, discriminatory treatment,
and failure to follow established procedures. The incident became a case study in Metro Transit's revised training program about respectful service and proper credential verification. The bus incident sparked broader changes throughout Portland Metro Transit. Marcus used it as an opportunity to strengthen the agency's commitment to inclusive service and respectful treatment of all passengers. New policies required drivers to properly examine all credentials before questioning their validity. Supervisory training emphasized recognizing and preventing discriminatory behavior. Customer service standards were updated to ensure professional treatment regardless of passenger appearance or perceived economic status. Marcus also expanded community outreach programs, ensuring that public transportation truly served all segments of the population. He increased service to underserved neighborhoods and improved accessibility features system-wide. 6 months later, Portland Metro Transit received national recognition for its inclusive service model and comprehensive anti-discrimination training. Other transit agencies began adopting similar programs. Marcus never forgot the lesson of that rainy Tuesday morning. Discrimination thrives when people in authority positions make assumptions about who belongs in public spaces. His experience as CEO gave him unique power to create systemic change, but the principles applied to everyone who worked in public service. The transit system became stronger because its leader experienced firsthand what many passengers face daily and have the authority to demand better. The Derek Rodriguez incident didn't stay contained within Metro Transit. Word spread through Portland's transportation community, and soon other city departments were examining their own customer service practices. The police department, which had responded to Derek's security call, reviewed their procedures for transit-related incidents. The city attorney's office updated anti-discrimination training requirements for all municipal employees. Even private businesses serving Metro Transit stops began reassessing how they treated diverse customers. Marcus found himself speaking at conferences across the country about leadership, discrimination, and public service. He shared the story not to embarrass Derek Rodriguez, but to illustrate how unconscious bias could undermine the very systems designed to serve everyone equally. Every person who uses public transportation deserves respect, he would tell audiences. When we fail to provide that respect, we fail in our fundamental mission. The incident also strengthened Marcus's resolve to ensure Metro Transit remained accessible and welcoming to all communities. He increased funding for multilingual signage, expanded paratransit services for disabled passengers, and created youth programs that introduced underserved communities to transit career opportunities. Derek Rodriguez never worked in public transportation again, but several drivers who witnessed the incident sought additional training to ensure they never made similar mistakes. The culture change was real and lasting.
3 years after the bus incident, Portland Metro Transit had become a model for inclusive public transportation. Ridership increased by 15% as more communities felt welcome using the system. Employee satisfaction improved as workers felt pride in serving all passengers respectfully. Marcus kept a photo on his office desk from a community celebration at the transit center. Dozens of families from different backgrounds, all standing together in front of the buses that served their neighborhoods. It reminded him daily why the work mattered. The incident with Derek Rodriguez had lasted less than 15 minutes, but its impact echoed through years of policy changes, training improvements, and cultural transformation. Sometimes the most important leadership moments come not from boardroom decisions, but from standing up for principles when discrimination tries to exclude you from spaces you've dedicated your life to serving. Marcus continued riding public transit regularly, usually without incident, but occasionally he'd encounter a driver or passenger who didn't recognize him, giving him ongoing insight into how the system functioned for everyone else.
That rainy Tuesday morning taught him that authority without accessibility is meaningless, and that real leadership requires ensuring the systems you oversee serve everyone with dignity, especially when you're not watching. The lesson of Bus 847 became part of Metro Transit's institutional memory. Respect for passengers isn't a courtesy, it's a requirement. And sometimes, the passenger you're tempted to dismiss might be the person who signs your paycheck. Justice arrived not through revenge, but through systemic change that made the entire transportation system better for everyone who depended on it. Epilogue: The Continuing Journey. 5 years later, Marcus still carried the business card Derek Rodriguez had refused to read, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that discrimination often masquerades as procedure, and that real authority comes from using power to protect others rather than exclude them from the spaces you've dedicated your life to serving. Portland Metro Transit had become one of the most respected public transportation systems in North America, known not just for efficiency, but for treating every passenger with dignity regardless of appearance or economic status. Derek Rodriguez's 15 minutes of discrimination had cost him his career, but more importantly, it had sparked reforms that benefited hundreds of thousands of daily riders. Sometimes justice works not through punishment, but through prevention, ensuring that the next person facing discrimination finds a system ready to protect rather than exclude them. The bus doors that Derek had slammed shut in Marcus's face became symbols of openness, welcoming everyone who needed transportation to opportunity, dignity, and belonging. And every morning when Marcus reviewed Metro Transit service reports showing on-time performance, customer satisfaction, and ridership diversity, he remembered why he'd chosen public service in the first place, to ensure that public resources truly serve the public, all of it. If this story moved you, think about the assumptions we make about who belongs in the spaces we control. Drop a comment about a time you stood up for inclusive service. And remember that sometimes the most powerful change comes from leaders who never forget what it feels like to be excluded from the very systems they've dedicated their life to improving.